Good morning. Welcome to Let's Talk a Second Chance. My name is Philip Jones.
And my name is Tafaro Cook, two-time kidney transplant recipient and founder of Kidney Care Coaches, where we coach people with stage 3 to stage 5 kidney disease. If you or you know someone who has kidney disease and they have challenges, hit us up at Kidney Care Coaches. Today, we have a great article that Phil and I came across, and this article is about it's called The Important Lesser Known Issues Chronic Kidney Disease Patients Should Consider Before Kidney Transplant. Now, this article is talking about the innuendos that people might not know about kidney transplant. You see a lot of people at this stage in life who want to transplant and things like that, and they might know the big picture of it. Okay, they know they might have to stay in hospital 7 days to 2 weeks or things like that. They know they might have to take certain medications and things like that. This article we came across is talking about the small things that you might not know. And it's just a little, we're just going to give you a little bit of education on some things that if you are in the position right now to get a kidney and that's what you're looking for, this education and this information will go a long way for you to understand some innuendos that goes on in the transplant world. So I'm going to start off with this information right here. Okay, it starts off with immune suppressive drugs. Then it starts with all immune suppressive drugs have side effects because your body's suppressed lower immune system is less able to fight off germs, bacteria, and other health problems that might arise. Common side effects include more facial hair, changes in body fat that cause fullness in the cheeks, stomach, and back, and mood swings. Short term memory loss, increased appetite, liver damage, and bone disease. Now, I just want to stop right there and talk to Phil about this because Phil understands where I'm coming from when we talk about this. And Phil, I want to talk about, what they said, first thing they said was facial hair. Facial hair growing on men might not be a problem, but facial hair growing on women. And some of these medications, these immune suppressive medications, can create facial hair on women. And a lot of people don't know that. And also fuller cheeks. What's your thoughts on this, Phil?
Um, Honestly, it's a little bit different position I think, for any male really to touch on this because this is something natural for us, right? Like we're looking for hair to come in here and stuff like that, right?
Right,
For men, for women, that's not something they want to see when they get older.
right,
They're not
right,
trying to walk around with that little shadow right here over their face, and
right.
it's not all that attractive. Some men like that. Hey, whatever fits their life. I ain't got nothing against them. Um, but I think what it does really is just from my point of view. And please, if any women are watching and you disagree, let me know. But I think it puts them in a self-esteem situation because
Yeah,
now they start to
exactly.
think, oh, I'm not beautiful anymore, or I can't go
Hmm.
talk to a guy because I have this, these light hairs
Hmm.
coming in, as a mustache or anything like that. Yeah, that could be a problem for them. At the same time, and again, I'm not a woman, so uh, this is, I guess you could really just kind of say me talking out the side of my neck as a man. Um, but just like we all have those areas that we should be taking care of in the first place, you know, uh, that's one area that I think, uh, like you said, because like I said, because men, that's where men hair is supposed to come through, and not really
Right.
for women. So when you have them as a woman, most of the women that I know, most of younger, older, middle age, whatever, most of them are looking on a daily basis anyways. First thing they, when they go in there, before they put on makeup and stuff like that, they wash their face and do all, normal, morning activities. They usually they sitting in the mirror like this, They're trying to
Hmm. Hmm.
zoom in with no zooming
What's,
in.
right. What's your thoughts on the other parts too, as far as the other side effects? Common other side effects is full cheeks, full stomach. With your bloatingness and back and mood swings, and a lot of people don't know this is the increase in appetite. Also, your appetite can decrease, and let's talk about, the fogginess that these suppressive autoimmune drugs, these immune suppressive medications can cause too. You know what I'm saying? And one of the main ones that a lot of patients take is prednisone. I mean, we all know prednisone is a good medication, but some of the side effects are all these things right here, where I'm talking about mood swings, short-term memory loss, and also bone disease. Now, these are some things a lot of people don't know. Every time we hear somebody, they're really really happy to get a kidney transplant, any type of transplant, and I'm happy for them also. But these are the things that you have to be concerned about as well. I've experienced every last thing they said right here. I've experienced more hair. It's not a problem for me, but I've also experienced, bloatingness in the face when I took prednisone, my bones hurting, you know, um, fogginess in my brain, where I had to stop and comprehend. What's your thoughts on all these other ones too, Phil?
Well, for me, I think it's uh, I think that getting to these specific things before we keep going, but these specific things that we're talking about now, I don't think really fit the title of this article, because what I think the issue is with those is that it's not so much that they're not known or anything like that, but it's just the fact that some of these doctors don't relay those messages to the patients, right? You have some doctors who are like, hey, one of the medicines you're gonna take, which is prednisone, is gonna make you want to eat more, it's gonna make you bloated, it's gonna make you do this, it's gonna make you do that, right? They give you
Yeah.
that rundown. I got that rundown, right? But I mean, every doctor has that one or two things that they don't tend to tell you till later on down the line. Perfect example, like I told y'all before with my transplant, I didn't know that it was a must of kidney patients taking Tylenol, not Motrin, right? I didn't find out till ended up in the situation I was in.
Yeah, that should have
But
been one of the first things they told you. You know what I mean? I
right,
mean, just out.
exactly.
That should have been. Yeah, that should have been one of the first things. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I think that's just more or less what it is that I think people like CDC or any of these other foundations that are out there, top foundations that are connected to these medical facilities and stuff like that, need to come up with lists of things that you don't have a choice but to tell your patients when they're in the process of getting ready for a transplant or whatever the case may be ahead of time, so they know. So it needs to be, hey, number one is this, number two is that. These things need to be told. Even if you don't have to say it to them, they need it. Give it to them in first. One thing that every transplant patient knows is that at one point you get a packet for something, emergency,
Right.
disaster, lights go out, this happens, that happens, you get a packet for something. On dialysis, you get one. Whether you're, post transplant, you get one. You get a packet for something, right? So when you get at least to that dialysis part, that stage, right? Or stage 5 end stage renal disease, in that packet needs to be, things that say, if you get a transplant during this time or whatever, just to keep you, you know, uh, let you know these things early. So I don't think that we don't know, or is of lesser value. I just think it just needs to be told earlier than when people are finding out. Like I don't think they should wait till after you have your transplant. This should be something that's part of that pre-transplant stage.
You know what though? Sometimes this is what happens though. Sometimes it's so many other challenges going on that these doctors might not tell you, and I think they are in the packet. But a lot of times, I just worked with a client that had that got a kidney transplant, and the transplant wasn't working at first. So it was so many other big issues opposed to what was just what you just said. And I'm not discrediting what you're saying. I think what you're saying is very important. It definitely needs to be said. But you know as well as I do, if a bigger issue is going on where their creatinine is not coming down where it's supposed to be, their bun is still, really, really high, those are going to take precedence over everything else. Those are going to be the main concerns. And you're not even getting into the immune suppressive side effects that can happen. I also want to read right here some other things that you might want to look for also. Okay. In other cases, immune suppressants can cause other health problems to develop, such as diabetes, cataracts, peptic ulcers, bone and joint problems. It is not known ahead of time if you would develop any of these problems or how serious they might be. All side effects vary from person to person and depend on the amount of drugs being taken. Over time, your doctor lowers the amount of drugs needed, which reduces negative risks. Diet and exercise also help. And that's true. So, Phil, with that being said, I think, when you first get to transplant, I totally agree with you when you say um, we should, know all these things and it's a packet. I feel it's on the patient to do their homework on every medication you take. That means not just taking the medication, but go on, you're on the internet all the time. Read up on these medications and find out what the side effects may be and what can come down the road. Because you know this as well as I do. These side effects don't happen all of a sudden. They're sometimes 6 months to a year out, and then you'll see these side effects happen. A lot of times we hear doctors talking about, when it comes to nutrition and exercise, we hear the doctors say, go back to eating what you want. And that's great. We want people to go back to eating what they want. But we have to also be health conscious that you have one kidney now. So if you was drinking a lot of soda pop and everything, be considerate that you have one kidney only filtering out all that soda pop. That could be a problem. What's your thoughts on all these other side effects, Phil?
Well, I think we all know that diet and exercise makes everything better, just in general. It puts us all in a better position for a better quality of life. Like you said, it's about being health conscious. You like your example you just said. If you love drinking soda, you know, or with a normal body with two kidneys, yeah, it can flush all that out, right? It can clean all that out. But when you got one, it is now working at half capacity, so it's not doing as much as normal. So I think at this point, I think the main thing that people need to think about after transplant is moderation. Moderation is
Oh,
key when it comes to, especially when you're eating. If you're a person that used to eat, 4, 5, 6 slices of pizza, let's cut that down to 2 or 3.
that's
You
good.
still gonna get the same taste. Ain't nothing changed. It's just the amount that I mean. And the one thing that people don't understand is that you don't eat till you're full. You eat till your body really kind of. And I don't want to say this because then some people could be like, "Well, I ain't satisfied till I'm full." But you eat till your hunger is gone. Really, more or less, just to kind of rejuvenate your system and put fuel in your body and stuff like that. You don't have to sit there and eat for 4 hours and then be like, "Oh, I'm full now." I'm good to go now. I'm gonna go take a nap and stop going to sleep after you eat. That's one of the biggest. That's
Thank
another
you.
problem of why people are dealing with obesity is they go eat and then go straight to sleep.
Right.
It's the reason why everything happens when you sleep. I think that was either you or somebody else that I was just uh that said this other. When you working out. Oh, my uncle actually, because he was a
Your uncle was
professional
a good
bodybuilder.
bodybuilder, right? He was a
Yeah, he was a
bodybuilder and
professional
everything, right?
bodybuilder at one
Yeah,
point, and he said,
he was
when
into
you
fitness and
sleep,
everything.
when you sleep, that's where your body gets that rejuvenation and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And he said people who go in the gym 9 times out of 10 and thinking that they that's where all that work is. That work comes in their body is them when they in the gym. He said, no, that's just burning off energy. He said most of that stuff happens while you sleeping, when your body is
That's the recovery
rejuvenating,
time.
right,
Exactly.
recovering, stuff like that. So if you can, try to stay up 30, 45 minutes, an hour, after you eat. Even if you dozing off, that's not bad because you ain't in your sleep. But don't like go to sleep until about an hour or so, after you've eaten or drinking water or whatever the case may be. And drink water. Let's just start this. Just
Right.
add that in there. Definitely try to add some water
Hmm.
to your life. I'm not telling you got to go drink the Pacific Ocean, but throughout the day, 4 or 5 cups of water. You ain't gotta, walk around like everybody else with these huge mungus, things of water. One of the things like Mr. Cook drinking Mr. Cook love water. So he don't have a problem with carrying stuff like that, right? And it's not a bad, it's a great thing. I'm trying to get to that point, right? But it's a little bit harder for me because I gotta walk around with fluid from the beginning of the day with dialysis, right? So I don't have that room like everybody else does to be able to accumulate that. Plus, there's no urination because I'm on peritoneal dialysis with no kidney, so I'm not able to throughout the day go release those fluids either, right? So the main thing I'm gonna say, I'm in part of my answer to this question here is moderation. Think about the amount that you drink and the amount that you eat and stay active. Even if you do eat a lot, stay active. Go out, go do some walking, go jump roping, go do some sit ups, go hit the gym, hit the treadmill, 45 minutes or whatever case that, may be. Just do something. I'm saying it again, the hardest thing to do is to start. You can't progress, you can't finish, you can't keep going unless you start. So,
Right. Some recommended readings. I want people to understand that there's some great books out here. One of the books is called The Unwanted Effects of Immune Suppressant Medications and What Kidney Transplant Patients Can Do About It. That's a great book. I didn't read it all, but I did check out the book before. This is a great book. It tells you all the small details about immune suppressive medications that kidney transplant and liver, heart, lung, pancreas transplant recipients take and some of the side effects and what can happen. And again, these side effects go to person. You've heard me say this. You can line up 20 transplant recipients and they have 20 different stories. So these side effects can happen to person. Somebody might get these side effects, somebody might not have none of these side effects. Then you might get somebody have them all. Another one part that I want to talk about right here is payment. Now I'm gonna read this. Most patients who are able to have a kidney transplant have their hospital's costs paid by Medicare and private insurance companies. These sources also usually pay 80% of your doctor's fees and most of your lab fees. After discharge from the hospital, Medicare pays 80% of the cost of outpatient follow up medical visits for 3 years and immune suppressive drugs charges for 36 months, which is 3 years also. I'm sorry, that's more than that. This leaves the patient to pay for the expensive drugs out of pocket after that time period. If the patient cannot afford the drugs after 36-month time period, the transplant kidney will stop working and patients will either return to a more costly dialysis treatment or die. Now, I have seen this stop people get from getting any kind of transplant. I have seen that. I've also seen, well, I'm just going to stay right here, real quick. Now, a lot of people I know who will stay on dialysis forever because they fear in 3 months, I'm sorry, in 3 years, that, they're not going to give them their medication and, they're not going to pay for their follow ups and stuff like that. And I understand that with a lot of people, but this is what I say. I say get the transplant and worry about that in 3 years. They have a lot of things going on right now, especially a lot of nonprofits that can help you pay for your medications and help you pay for your your follow ups. So You had 3 years to figure these things out. But I see this stop a lot of people from wanting to get a kidney transplant or any kind of transplant. What's your thoughts on that, Phil? Have you seen people want to stop because of this situation when it comes to the pain?
I've not met anybody personally, but um, I was really sitting there thinking I would actually like to hear your point of view on this because you are post transplant. I'm uh going in the process of getting two transplants, so I don't have to worry about payment or anything like that with medications and stuff for that. So I just kind of want to hear from your point of view exactly
Well, this is what.
what do you recommend in those situations? What avenues can you go down? Things of that nature to get these other maybe private insurances or things like that to be able to
Right.
continue to get these medications because uh, if you don't have the insurance in general, you got to pay for these medications. You're never going to be able to pay for them because it's too much. Unless you're just sitting on a stack of just to be sitting there, it's a little bit different, right? But when you're somebody that doesn't have that stack of cash behind them, and they got to pay, and it's something that's worrisome for them, you got to figure out the best way you can go to still be able to get these medications. So
Well, this is what I will say. I'll say it again. At different times, I didn't have, the money for medications, and it was challenging because the medications are expensive. But what I did was I would call, different nonprofit organizations and find out that these nonprofit organizations can help you with some cost of your medications. There's also cards. You can talk to your pharmacist and they can give you cards that can pay a percentage down on your medications and your follow ups and all those things. The biggest thing I recommend people is this: don't stay in a negative environment because you're so worried about after 3 years they're not going to pay for it. You have 3 years to figure this out. Again, there's nonprofit organizations that can help you pay for your medications. There's hospitals that have these programs also. They know people who don't have the money for these medications, and they will help also, and they'll provide assistance for you. And that's what I've told a lot of people in this situation where they go, man, it's almost 3 months, 3 years is coming up, and they're gonna stop paying for me. Well, I tell them right then, before that time comes up, as soon as you get your transplant, you need to be talking to your pharmacist about how you can pay these medications after 3 years. You should also talk to your doctors, and your doctors again from different hospitals, because the majority of hospitals are nonprofit organizations, and they are, work with these other nonprofits who can get you your medication. I've seen it happen, and they've helped me also. I'm being transparent about this because these medications, after 3 years, I'm gonna tell you, someone was $1,000 a month, and a lot of times, when you got bills and you got family and stuff like that, and you're paying for $1,000 medication for one medication for just a month, that gets costly. But if you do your homework, you will find out about organizations who help people provide money for these medications, and it all worked out for me. And with that being said, now I have private insurance and everything, and I'm okay. But when I didn't, I had to work. I had to use these nonprofit organizations, and they were remarkable, and that got me my medication and everything was fine. But this is what I say again: do your homework. You have 3 years to figure this out, but don't just stay on dialysis or just stay on the LVAP because your heart's not working, all because you fear after 3 months. And anyway, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think when Trump was in, they signed a bill where anybody who got a kidney transplant can get their medications for life. I'm not sure if that's with heart, lung, liver, and things like that, but I am sure with kidneys it is, and that's about to come to fruition. Excuse me. Another recommended reading is How to Deal with High Price Kidney Transplant Anti Rejection Drugs. And that's a good reading too. And I'm sure this book also will tell you ways to get your medications and things like that. So the information is out there. You just have to do your homework. Now, also, right here, I want to talk about living donors and how this works. So, living donors. These funding sources will also pay the cost of the medical workup before surgery for living donors and Medicare. If the person getting the kidney is eligible for Medicare, will pay 100% of the hospital and surgeon's costs for removing your donor's kidney. Now, that's big. Your kidney transplant center's financial coordinator should be able to answer any questions you may have about funding transplant costs. Now, I've had two kidney transplants, and the Medicare did pay for my donors 100%, and they were fine, and I love that, and all their follow up. And for the most part, when you are a donor, you don't have to take any after effects after transplant medications, unless there's a challenge that may arise. What's your thoughts on this, Phil?
Um, so before I go into that, I will kind of one thing I did want to touch on. We was just talking about medication. Is that also don't be afraid to ask for generic medication. Because nine
Boom.
times out of ten, generic medication is the same goddamn medication, just a different name,
Yeah, it
and it's all
really
the
is.
same thing, right? I'll give you a perfect example. When I had my transplant in 2007, I had my transplant at UCLA, and I remember they prescribed a medication to me and everything. When you leave out the hospital, they just bring you a bag of medication. You don't have to go down to the pharmacy. You just walk out with your medication. So I needed to get something else that they had prescribed me uh, because I think they ended up changing my rejection medication, one of them or something like that. And I remember we walked in and went to put the prescription in, and they were like $1,500, and my dad was looking like, wait a minute, like what? At this time I'm uh, was it 2007, so getting ready to turn 18. I'm not even out of high school. That was my senior year of high school. And so we sitting there like looking at each other like, man, I don't know how this year happened. And so I remember we went back to my doctor. Like we went right back upstairs. We didn't go home try to figure nothing out. We went straight back upstairs and was like, hey, it's got to be something else. And then when he asked, you realize because what happens is that like UCLA is not my medical facility, right? Kaiser is. So most of the stuff that I do goes through your medical facilities and your insurance, right? That connection there. So remember the first question my doctor asked me was uh he didn't ask, it was more of a statement. He was like, you have Kaiser, huh? And I'm like, yeah. He was like, okay, I know what the issue is. And he immediately just rewrote the prescription and was like, yeah, it was you just needed a different medication they give. It's the
Right.
same exact thing. It's just, I guess a different name to it. And, certain medications are costly with these medical insurances, and some are a lot lower.
Hmm.
Some medications are a lot lower with this type of medication. So went down there and it was like, okay, no charge. I'm like, cool, appreciate you. So don't be afraid just because you hear the word generic, you think you're getting a lesser value. And when it comes to medication, 9 times out of 10, that's not the point. You just getting a
Yep.
different name. You just get
That's
a
it.
different name. I give you real quick example. Pfizer and Johnson. With this goddamn vaccine, most people I want to go with Pfizer and Moderna. They like outside of the fact that Johnson had the problems that they had, they were already saying that in the beginning before those problems arose was that they would go with Pfizer and Moderna because just the name in general and what they do. You hear Johnson, you think baby shampoo. You don't think medical supplies. Shots to keep you healthy and better and things of that nature. So yeah, go, talk to your pharmacist, your nurses, your physicians about those different avenues that you can go down to bring those costs down. Because like Mr. Cook said, you got 3 years to figure it out. The whole thing is just not taking your time trying to figure it out. Still use that time wisely to put yourself ahead of the game so you don't have to run around scrambling like a chicken with his head cut off when you get to 3 years trying to figure out what to do with these medications. So do due diligence there. Um, and I talk about it sometimes. Can you repeat that question that you real quick, Mr. Cook, that you have for me?
I was just asking you, what was your thoughts on the, well, you already answered it when you told me about the immune suppressive drugs. One thing you said, which was really, really important, and I missed it, was generic medications. And I like what you said about that. I just want to piggyback off what you said. A lot of times people they do just what Phil and his father did. They go get a medication and they thinking, hey, the medication should cost XYZ, $20, $30. And you go there and the medication costs $1,500. And you're like, what in the world? Wow. You're blown away about the cost. Well, again, he said, the doctor can write you another script for generic, and generic is the same medications. So before you go get these drugs, you can ask your doctor, hey, are these medications in generic form? And if they're not, he can write the script right then and there and write you a script for generic medications. And like you said, they're the same medications. I've been taking generic, I've been taking on brand, and the same outcomes all my life. And Phil can probably tell you the same thing. That's just how it goes. There's a good another read. I'm throwing out a couple books for people to read that are looking for information. And this is another book I want to throw out. It's called "Should Chronic Kidney Disease Patients Be Switching to Vegetarian Diet to Improve Outcomes?" That's another book that you might want to check out and just look into it and see what it says about being a vegan or having a slightly vegetarian diet when you are in kidney disease. Now, that's another one. So, I also want to read right here. This is a little bit of information that's going to just finish off this topic. It says the primary benefits of a successful kidney transplant is that dialysis is no longer needed, which generally means an extended and improved quality of life. Transplant patients often return to work within 8 weeks of their surgery. Kidney transplant frees a person with CDK to resume a normal life, including work, travel, sports, and more. However, kidney transplantation is not without its fair share of risks. For example, it requires major surgery. You have to wait for a donor or a cadaver kidney. Your body may reject the kidney, and you will need to afford immunosuppressive medications. So these are some challenges, and people, look at them as, big challenges. I still say they're not big challenges. These are just little hurdles in your path, but you can overcome them. And I believe that these little challenges are nowhere near compared to the upside of having a kidney transplant. The quality of life you have of a kidney transplant opposed to the immune suppressive drugs, I think the kidney transplant outweighs all those.
Yeah, I think you definitely put yourselves in a position. Like the key term that was brought up is quality of life, right? Um, being on the difference between being on dialysis and transplant is the fact of quality of life. So when you're on, I'd rather have that transplant and at least be able to uh, extend that time that I have, 3 years. Like you said, you don't got to worry about this up to 3 years. You just take your time and try to figure it out in those 3 years. But
Right.
it's gonna be so much, worth it. It's gonna be a lot more worth it than having to deal with dialysis or, any other type of thing that you have to deal with for organ failure, whichever organ you're dealing with. So why not just go ahead, get that time in that you don't get, because think about here's how I think of it, right? Let's say that the situation that I'm in is deadly. They only giving me, you know, 3 to 6 months to live. If I don't get a transplant, you know, things like that, right? All right, you're gonna die in 3 to 6 months. And you get a transplant, and you have a guaranteed if this organ takes, you're gonna get 3 years added on it, which you would not have had. Right, that's the extra 2.5 years of time for you to to pull that time in, as opposed to those 3 to 6 months. I'm taking those 3 years. You know, and the other thing is that a transplant can be an extension outside of just those 3 years, just an extension of you figuring things out to get to the organ that you need to keep you going longer than even those 3 years. My transplant lasted 3 years, right? But without that, and this is what, year 12 just about on dialysis since it rejected. But who knows if I even make it to this point without the first transplant, right?
Right,
Even though
right.
I have no kidneys, and I'm on dialysis. That's all fine and dandy. But who knows the way that my health goes without that original transplant? That transplant might have just been what saved my life enough to get things healthier in my body to even deal with the dialysis for 12 years after the fact. Because
That's
nobody
true.
just goes through dialysis with no problems. You deal with something,
That's
say
true.
small or
It's gonna
big,
be something.
you deal with something, right? And
That's it.
you might do peritonitis, whatever the case may be. It's gonna be
Hey, the
something,
list goes on. Okay,
right?
it's gonna be something.
So take that. I say I agree with you, Miss Cook. Take that chance. Go ahead and get these 3 years added on to your life. Give your family some more time with with them. God forbid that even if you have to if reject after those 3 years or whatever, that it is giving you that time to be able to keep fighting, on dialysis or whatever the case may be, a type of uh, medical instruments you may need to use to keep you going. Because who knows? Again, like I said, if before that transplant, those if, your medical equipment probably might not even help you at that time, but because you were able to get a transplant to put yourself in a healthier situation medically, with your body, it's giving you a fighting chance to keep going. So
Right,
take that
right.
chance, take those 3 years, but use that time wisely. Do your due diligence, look up all these insurance, talk about, to your pharmacist and stuff about your generic medications. Become a best friend to your pharmacist, because one thing I've learned over time is that your pharmacist, if nothing else, is at least going to do their job, right? But
And
if
they
you
look
have
out
that
for you.
relationship,
They find out nonprofit organizations that got medications and stuff like that. They look out for you. And like you said, build these relationships. Build these relationships, with your pharmacist. Tell them your situation. Be transparent. You might have to have a little bit of vulnerability. Tell them what's going on, because these medications can be very, very expensive. Like I said, and Phil just said it earlier, I have been to the doctor, I mean the pharmacist, and they have told me $1,000, $1,500 for these medications. And I'm talking about not for a year supply, I'm talking about 30-day supply. And that's how much some of these medications cost. And they are up there like that. So you want to build a rapport with your nurse, your doctors, your your
pharmacist.
your I'm sorry, your
No,
pharmacist.
you good,
Thank
you
you.
good, you good. I didn't want to step in yet, just in case it
I
came to
guess.
you. And I was like, and I was looking, at, I was just saying, but you know, I think,
I need all the help I can get. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
hey, but you know what? It's good to come in. Where I was going with my last statement is, um, the reason why you want to build rapport with these people is because 9 times out of 10, those people that they have great relationships with are the people that they drop gems to, right?
That's it.
9 times out of 10, you having just some normal conversation Sunday morning, and you're like, "Hey man, I just came across XYZ. I forgot to tell you about. You can go to XY, this place. and they'll pay for 80-90% of your medication, and you ain't really got to pay nothing much after that, whatever. But if you just that regular patient, they're gonna give you the information you are just that you need to know. I'm not gonna get too deep into it because that's not my place really to get into. But I remember you telling me, Miss Cook, you talked to Sally, right? You and
Mhm.
getting to know
Mhm.
Sally and who she is in a
Yep.
position of a pharmacist, was able to throw some gems to you because you went to her
That's it.
connected, having a
Yep.
conversation, right? So
Good.
take that time to get to know your pharmacists, your doctors, things that nature. Because 9 times out of 10, what happens, they when they get to know who you are, especially if you're a good person, is they want to work with you. They want to make sure that you're in these positions to live a better quality of life or make it to a transplant and things of that nature like that, right? I have probably the best relationship with my nephrologist. Uh, my nurse is a little bit on the same level because I've had so many in the past 12 years, right? But even with this group of nurses, I'm still cool with them. I can talk to them, have a great conversation, everything like that. As well as the pharmacist and my dietitian. Those three, though, my nephrologist, my dietitian, and my pharmacist, right? They've all been the same the past 12 years. We got 12 years of history together, and and they got my back 100%. They're the reason why I'm even in the position I'm in to be considered again for the transplant list because they never gave up on me. We have this connection. They know what I can't do, and what I should be doing as a patient, things of that nature. So build that rapport because what's gonna happen is they're gonna put themselves in a position to make sure that they put you in a position to be able to get this transplant or even if you have to stay on dialysis, to be able to still have a good quality of life while on dialysis. They'll make those adjustments for you when they see certain things. Sometimes doctors see things and they see a trend of certain stuff going upwards number wise, right? And they can go, this ain't looking right. Or I think you may be dealing with XYZ. Hey, let's change this medication because it looks like your numbers coming up. We need to reverse ever. Some doctors gonna let you keep trending till you get past that range that they want you to be in, and then it'll come out of nowhere like, hey, now we need to change these medications. When Joe Blow next door changed his medications 6 months ago with the same trend that you just had, because he talks to his doctor all the time. He calls him, whether it's in the office or having. I talk to my doctor about anything, not just medical. I don't know what your connection is with yours or the one that you had in Ohio, but I can talk to my doctor about anything. As we get done with business, 9 times out of 10, we have some kind of conversation with sports, Lakers, Rams, whatever the case may be. That's the kind of connection that I've always had with my doctor. Is to talk to them about anything in life, and you need to build that rapport with these people so they can give you the best care that you should be getting. So I'm done. Me. I can definitely run my mouth, and I
We
know it.
know you can go. We know you can go. Okay. We know you can go.
Yes, I can, and I am not afraid to admit it. I was, it was funny. Real quick, is I was watching this comedian, right, and they were talking about he was talking about like uh, what you were like in high school and stuff like that. And he said, in high school, he's probably a dude who just got labeled as a person who talked too much and was getting in trouble all the time for talking. And he was like, look at me now. He was like, you sit there and said all this stuff about me, and I'm standing up here. The same thing you said was an issue for me is what's making me money. So me talking so much is only able, it fits for what we're doing. So, I'll keep it because before I was like, maybe I do need to shut up. If I went into that quiet mode like I was going to go into, then this definitely wouldn't have happened. So again, now I'm done. Ms. Cook, you want to take us out on the last word? Do what you gotta do, brother. All I gotta do is hit end.
Well,
So
Okay, I'll take us out. Well, everybody, again, this is information that sometimes you don't know, and we wanted to bring you some information about, the importance of some of the side effects of the medications, some of the side effects of transplant. We also wanted to tell you about, how to pay for some of these medications and how to pay for a transplant. And there's some tips in this in this whole video about books that you might want to read so you can learn about side effects, and also books that help you work on your nutrition, and books also to help you understand about medications and some of the side effects and things like that. So just take heed and listen to this video, and we appreciate you. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop one gem real quick before we get out of here about books. One is definitely look for Mr. Cook's book, $10 Commandment that'll be coming
Yes.
out. It's definitely gonna do
One, two,
some
three,
justice
four,
for you.
five, 6, 7, 8, 9. The 10 dialysis commandments. One.
First off, hey, listen, he just dropped one on everybody, including me, because I didn't even know there was a song to this. So, I'm like, yeah, he did some thinking going into this thing. But and I'm on dialysis. I'm definitely, waiting to see what's in this, with all the knowledge that I know Mr. Cook has being on dialysis, the amount of time that he was on. The other dialysis book I'm going to give you is already out. It's called Dialysis is Not Your Life, which was written by Fred Hill. And Fred is actually going to be on our patient panel for our dialysis conference coming up this month, end of this month on the 25th. So very, very excited for him to be on to share his point of view as well. This dialysis conference is 90% patient led. Um, Everybody that's on this panel, except I think for two people, were patients and on dialysis. So you're not getting more or less just the medical vocabulary and stuff like that and explanation. You getting it from the patient side as well. So you getting the stuff that we all pretty much learn educational wise, with the side of it coming from a patient and saying, hey, uh, I dealt with XYZ, and this is how I'm going to get through it, out of it, whatever the case may be. So definitely drop in with us on February 25th. We have a number of great presentations that'll be coming through, and subjects that we're going to touch on. Again, we got our patient panel that's going to be great as well. I'm looking forward to, led by Dwellin Williams and Anthony Reed of Kidney Trails. And so, again, come chill with us, get this information, like, comment, subscribe, like Mr. Cook said. And, he already took us out, so I ain't got to say nothing else. We out of here.